Rey is Luke's daughter, and if you don't think so, you're a chump. And on a slightly less confrontational note, the analyzation of Rey's character and her relationship to the broader arc of the Star Wars universe has provided me with the most fulfillment, and consequently I feel like the best work I can do is to present why I think what I think about Rey. To start the priming off, I'd like to bring to our attention two events that transpired before the release of the movie. The first being an interview with Daisy Ridley and screenwriter Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen begins by mentioning how important family is to the Star Wars saga, and how important it was for Ridley's personal values to align with the character she portrays.
Let's take a look.
Family is very important inside the Star Wars movies. Daisy is when she came in, I was particularly taken by the fact that she kept talking about her family, her mom, her sisters. We began to realize that many of the things about Daisy are the things that are inside the character that is played in the movie of Rey.
This is only suppositional, for it could just mean that Rey's quest to find her family is important to her character and motivations. But it could also mean that Rey's quest to find her family is important to the plot of the movie as a whole. Either way, the interview continues. Ridley mentions that her character's solitary origins are a, quote, big clue, end quote, as to her lineage.
I'm not sure how much I can say. I guess because I've said that I'm solitary, that's how I begin. That is probably a big clue as to what what it is.
Now, when the interview broke around May of 2015, it was widely published that this was evidence for Rey being a solo. Why, one asks? Well, because the brilliant news writer saw a potential speck of wordplay and assigned agency to its implementation. And watch this and see if you laugh as hard as I did.
Solitary. Solo-tary. Solo freak out.
Oh my god! That was just a wink and a nod right there. She basically confirmed it for us. She's Rey Solo.
Really now? What kind of third grade reporting is this? One, in no way during Ridley's delivery did she give any extra emphasis or extraordinary reason for us to assume she chose the word solitary because it sounded similar to solo. And two, doesn't it make much more sense that she would be talking about her character's solitary origins, you know, like she explicitly said?
I guess because I've said that I'm solitary, that's how I begin. That is probably a big clue as to what what it is.
Maybe Ridley meant that Rey struggling to eke out an existence in a harsh desert planet while yearning for something more was reminiscent of a particular lineage. Wouldn't that make more sense? Nah, let's be real. Heaven forbid Ridley compose any coherent thought that supersedes elementary wordplay. Now, as mentioned previously, Rey's solitary origins give rise to a particular continuity. Meager living and humble beginnings on solitary desert planets have marked the Skywalker family for generations. To move on to the second event before the release of the movie, watch this part of the second trailer.
The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. My sister has it. You have that power too.
Now, before you say that's just a quote from Return of the Jedi, it doesn't mean anything, I'll preempt you by saying you're mostly right. It is a quote from Return of the Jedi, from the scene in particular where Luke tells Leia that she is his sister with the "my sister has it," meant to induce Leia into understanding. Now, notice that in the trailer, there's no story-driven need to explain Leia's relation to Luke. It's all common knowledge now. And furthermore, the editor swaps the order of one line, the, quote, "you have that power too," end quote, from the beginning of the dialectic to the end, to make it seem like the person he's talking to isn't his sister, and perhaps is one of his children. So upon consideration of these two things, what's the takeaway? The Star Wars saga is one of family, and the notion of family is integral to not only the broad plot of The Force Awakens, but also to Rey's character. Moreover, the family story we're being told is one of the Skywalkers. So although nothing here is definitive, I believe it can be said that just upon the consideration of these two things alone, it's unlikely that Rey is some random and has no relation to anybody, and it is likely that Rey is a Skywalker. Now let's move on to discussion about The Force Awakens and the information that the writers have carefully presented to us. The moral of the story from here on out is going to be this. If you can watch The Force Awakens and read some rudimentary analysis on r/Star Wars and still be able to think that Rey isn't Luke's daughter, it belies a serious incompetence at critical analysis. It baffles me how people can say with confidence that Rey is a Kenobi or a Solo. It's just laughably incorrect. It's akin to ushering reason itself off a cliff into the hazy abyss of denial and wishful thinking. And to begin, I'll start with the small things, and then as we progress, I'll lead into the bigger stuff. Throughout the movie, we're presented with an interesting opportunity to view the younger generation of Star Wars protagonists through the eyes of the older ones. We can learn about who Rey and Finn are through how Han and Chewie react to them. Because we're familiar with Han's character and his past relationships and experiences, as viewers we can derive more meaning from his reactions towards Rey and Finn than we can from Rey and Finn's actions alone. With this being said, there are a couple scenes where the writers and director have chosen to provide us with information. In general, Rey displays a natural aptitude towards flying and mechanics, to the point where she rivals Han's knowledge of at least the conceptual parts of flying the Millennium Falcon. However, when she bypasses the converter during their stint in hyperspace, the director and writers chose to present us with a shot of Han giving Rey a look of focused appraisal. Now, it's easily argued that this just could be a way of showing Rey's mechanical competence, and I think that's definitely a valid interpretation. And pause, as a broader note, most of these points I'm making, save a few, can be interpreted to suit a wide number of conclusions. I'm not selling to you guys these micro-level interpretations, but rather a macro-level interpretation. Each point, taken by itself, is hardly convincing, but in these cases the larger amalgam of them is what matters. So, resume. Although I believe it's a valid interpretation to think it's mere character development of Rey to show her mechanical understanding impresses the likes of Han Solo, I believe there's more to gain from thinking that the writers and director implemented this shot not only to tell us something about Rey, but also to tell us something about Han. In the demonstration of Rey's skills, Han is silently evaluating her, and in doing so, something piques his interest. And that's about all I can say with confidence that happens. And it's up to you guys to go a step further and think that perhaps he finds Rey's technical prowess oddly reminiscent of one of his old friends. To further solidify this theory, in the script, the scene direction brings up a motif to be revisited throughout the rest of the film. After she goes toe-to-toe with Han's knowledge, Han asks himself, who is she? There's just something about Rey that people notice and towards which are drawn. It's this something that causes Han and Maz Kanata to inquire about Rey's identity. Now, moving away from Han and towards his son, Ren, we're provided with a few choice quotes that give us considerable reason to believe that Ren not only knows who Rey is before they meet, but that Ren had a hand in, or at least knew about, Rey's placement on Jakku. Now, I've been pretty lengthy, and these are more obvious, so I'm going to make it short and sweet. When one of the First Order officials informs Ren that the BB unit escaped, Kylo sarcastically asks if the droids stole a freighter, to which the official responds that he had help from FN-2187. Ren does the slashy bit with the lightsaber for a few seconds, then turns around and asks if there's anything else. The official again responds that the two were accompanied by a girl. Ren proceeds to violently force-pull the official into a choke while viciously asking, "What girl?" Now, this lets us know that Ren is perhaps aware of a particular unknowingly Force-sensitive girl on Jakku, who he would be very displeased to hear has gotten around to mucking up his plans. From here on out, every time Ren refers to Rey, mainly to Snoke, it's always heavily hinted that Ren understands she's more of a threat than just any untrained Force-sensitive girl should be. Furthermore, in the novelization, when Rey force pulls the lightsaber towards her in their final confrontation, Kylo Ren says under his breath, quote, "It is you," end quote, confirming that the person he thought she was a particularly strong Force-sensitive girl. Now, to move on to the most crucial, and to any rational person, the undeniably conclusive evidence. It's the one that's been touched upon throughout most of the video, and that being that Rey is inexplicably connected to Luke in terms of personal traits and in terms of destiny. In the essence of time, I'm just going to start firing them off, with inspiration from the list compiled by Reddit user Sack of Llamas. And also in the end, I'm going to list more Reddit users who, thanks to their help, I was able to create this video. Number 1. In the script for the movie, during the part where Ren informs Snoke that Rey is, quote, strong in the Force, untrained but stronger than she knows, end quote, it's explicitly stated that Ren's thoughts go immediately to Luke. 2. She's a naturally gifted pilot and mechanic, and in her possession in her meager home at Jakku were a Rebel helmet and a handmade Rebel pilot that she enjoyed, and I hope still enjoys playing with. 3. Maz Kanata. Get this, guys. Maz Kanata has a line that says, quote, that lightsaber was Luke's, and his father's before him, and now it calls to you, end quote. Come on, people. It's like one of those brain teasers for kids. Guys, what comes next? Shall we take a vote? Is it 12? 1? Maybe it's 4? Sorry, that would be way too obvious, right? Why would that make any sense? 4. Of course, Maz's line in number 3 immediately follows the vision that Rey experiences from touching Anakin and Luke's lightsaber, and in which she hears Yoda and Obi-Wan, both former teachers of Luke. Am I starting to see a pattern? 5. When Force interrogating Rey, Kylo appears to be accessing Rey's dreams and desires, and in doing so senses that Rey is extremely lonely, and that she sees visions of an ocean and an island, just like the planet where Luke resides. Rey is so inextricably connected to Luke that the world she would visit in her dreams to escape the dry monotony of Jakku is the planet Luke Skywalker has been living on. And there are a lot more reasons that you can peruse if you look at the link in the comments section of this video. As a final plea from pure practicality, here's a comment by this Reddit user that I'm not going to try to pronounce. Quote, yeah, she's most probably Luke's child. All these Kenobi theories and whatnot make me cringe a bit. Some people are really looking too much into it. Let's face it, some things might feel overly obvious because they are. The people who theorize these things are only a very small portion of the lot that will see these films. Rey being a Skywalker, Luke's daughter, is more than fine for most people, and it will make sense in the story arc of Star Wars in general. The countless clues in The Force Awakens about Rey's real bloodline are not there to cleverly misdirect us hardcore fans. They're there so that she being revealed as Rey Skywalker makes sense for as many viewers as possible. In summation, the Star Wars saga is one of family, and in specific one of the Skywalker family. And because of Rey's inexplicable connection to Luke, in terms of both her personal traits and her destiny, in addition to key scenes from Ren and Han, it can be said that beyond a shadow of a doubt, Rey is Luke's daughter.